Hi guys, just wanted to talk to you a bit about the two types of karate that I believe there is. There is combat-based karate, which is what we do at Canton Martial Arts, and there is a sport karate. Now, if you were to look at sport karate on the internet or anything like that at all, it's very much points based. They have different stances, different techniques, different maneuverabilities, and so on. If you look at their kata, it's a lot more precision, a lot more form. Whereas combat-based karate, which is what we primarily focus on now, it is much more like you're in a stance, like in boxing, Thai boxing, freestyle kickboxing, freestyle karate, and it's more of a continuous type of sparring. And our kata that we would do, it would be more over function over form. I always liken the two things to almost like rugby league and rugby union. It's the same game, but there are different rule sets and it's slightly different, but it's the same game. So karate as a whole, I believe there would be two styles. You would have the points or the sport style, and you would have the combat style, which is what primarily which Canton Martial Arts is based on now. Years gone past, we would be more sport based, so points based, more form over function on kata. Our stances were slightly different. We'd be more scoring 1 points and so on for that. In Japanese, it's called ippon kumite, and what we do now is ju kumite, or continuous fighting. So why have I transferred from sport karate to combat karate? Great question. I believe combat karate it's a lot more functional in a self-defense and an applicable manner, meaning that what we're training on a regular basis within the dojo, you can transform into a self-defense or a combat situation, rather than purely focusing on points and trying to think, okay, how can I score a point before the other person? I believe both have their validity, but I think you need to focus on one to become greater at that sport. So when I was doing points fighting or sport karate, I purely focused on points fighting, and I purely focused on my kata being looking absolutely perfect. Now my focus has changed to, does my combat, does my sparring, will this translate into a self-defense situation? Will this translate into a situation that I might need to use it as and when? And then also with my kata, what is the actual function of this kata? So I might be slightly different techniques, or not quite as crisp on certain things, because I'm looking at function over form. So that's pretty much why Canton Martial Arts doesn't enter the karate circuit these days, because primarily we don't practice the rule set that they have. It would almost be like a rugby union team going and trying rugby league, and you might do okay, but the rugby league team, because of the rule set and what they practice, the union team would be at a distinct disadvantage. Us at Canton Martial Arts, we could actually compete in a karate points or sport karate event. We may do okay, but primarily we're going to be at a massive disadvantage because we don't practice what they're looking for within that specific rule set. Once again, I want to highlight that there is definite advantages to learning both and doing both, but to be a master, I think you've got to focus on one. And for me personally, I want to take the sparring and the kata aspect of combat karate and think, how can I transfer this into a self-defense applicable and more usable art, and then focus on that. So which then allows me time to do throws, sweeps, takedowns, self-defense, groundwork, pad work, application work, and all those other things, rather than thinking, how can I score a specific point, or how can I make my kata look crisper, how can I sell the point, rather than, is this going to work if or as and when needed. So yeah, that is the main reason why Canton Martial Arts, we hold our own competitions. We do our light continuous competitions in the sparring, and the kata is only our kata. So it really does, when we have our own competitions 2 or 3 times a year, it's our rule set, so the students they know that they're not going to have to try and learn anything new to compete. The judges are knowing what they're looking for because it's like continuous or function over form within the kata sections. And that's why we sort of stick within ourselves. We've had to make that decision over the years to what are we going to be? Functional, applicable, combat based, or points based. So sport versus combat. That's pretty much why we don't compete anymore on the external circuit. Used to years ago. I loved it, absolutely loved it. Did very, very well. A lot of my students did very, very well. I loved it. You know, I think some of the athletes in the points world are phenomenal athletes. What they can do and how they can do it is absolutely out of this world. But we had to make a decision to be sport or combat. And I believe there are more advantages into learning combat-based karate than sport-based karate. All right, good luck. Hope to see you on the mats very soon, learning some combat karate applicable jitsu. All right, bye.